What's up, tubers? Tio here, Simplistic Fishing. Still doing these lake breakdowns. This time tonight, we're going to go out and check out Lake Aquilla. Looks like an interesting one, has a lot of fluctuation. Not sure about how great the bass fishing is. There's definitely bass in there. Let's go see if we can find them. Like we always do, we start at the Texas Park and Wildlife fishing page to see what kind of information we can find on the lake anytime we're breaking down a lake here in Texas. This one is Aquilla Lake, as we talked about earlier. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Aquilla. If not, I guess, correct me in the comments. Would love to know if I'm pronouncing it wrong. The location is 35 miles north of Waco off of Highway 310, just west of I-35 near Hillsboro. Surface area is 3,020 acres. Maximum depth is 59.5 feet, and it was impounded in 1982. So I would say a fairly newer lake compared to some of the lakes that we've been breaking down. You can see here current lake level. You can take a look at that. Looks like elevation pools 537. So just look where the lake level is and compare it to that. You'll be good to go. Quite a bit of fluctuation, 3 to 4 feet. We were able to find a pretty low spot on this lake back in 2012, so that's what we use for the mapping. As far as the clarity of the water is normally stained. And then if you look down here for predominant fish species, you can see largemouth bass, crappie, blue and channel catfish, as well as white bass. And if you look here, here's the chart, tells you kind of what to expect when you go down. Now sometimes these are off, but for the most part, Texas Park and Wildlife does a pretty good job of letting you know what's in the lake. So you can see here largemouth bass is fair, so it's probably going to be a little bit tough. Based on this chart, looks like catfish are good, crappie are good, white bass are fair, and sunfish are fair as well. If we go up here and look at the lake records, it says here largemouth bass lake record was caught in 1995. At least that's the last one that was recorded. 12.81 pounds, so pretty large fish in this body of water. And if you go down and you look down here, they've also put some habitats in there. We'll talk about those, and we mark those on the map so you guys can see those. And then the last thing I wanted to show you was this tips and tactics. You can see here, I'm just going to read it to you. Largemouth bass fishing can be good on Aquilla. The combination of stained water, localized cover, and light fishing pressure means that there are some big bass to be caught, but you have to work for them. Fish spinnerbaits, jigs, port combos, and plastic worms in and around cover. Tree lines, fence rows, and creek channels are all good places to start. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to break down the lake. We're going to jump over to Google Earth, and we're going to point out those key areas that you need to be looking at, and hopefully help you guys get on some fish. So let's jump over. Let's take a look at the Google Earth side. Here we are on the Google Earth, and we're going to take a look at Lake Aquilla. Now, over here on the left-hand side, you're going to notice we have this broke down by a couple different things. I'm going to start by just showing you all of it, walk you through what all of this stuff means, and then we're going to go in, we're going to go through the map, and we're really going to point this out. So first one is cover and structure. You can notice here on the map, it's mainly rocks, ponds, debris. We found some pipe in there as well, so we're going to point all of that out. And you can see here, if I break this down, it will show you this. We also have ramps and slabs, so not too many ramps out there. I only saw really 2 that we were able to mark for you, so that's not going to be much of a pattern to run. We've also got channels. Now, there were quite a few channels in this lake. You can see here, you can see all the green marks. Those are tracks. And so what we've done is we've used the satellite image to mark the track where that channel is, so you can locate yourself perfectly and set up yourself perfectly when you're out there fishing, hopefully putting you in some higher percentage areas to catch some fish. And then we've also got offshore. Now offshore, this one's going to be a little bit different. My friend David actually broke this lake down for me. And then I went back, we kind of merged our wording together. So some of our terminology is a little bit different, where he'll say offshore, I might like label it rock or something like that, or point, but we're still pointing out the exact same stuff, and we'll go over that as we go through this video. But if you look here, this is basically all the offshore stuff that you can possibly imagine. This looks like it's going to be a pretty heavy offshore lakes. So what we've done is we've marked all the high percentage areas. We're going to talk about some of those areas here as we break it down on Google Earth, and then we'll follow up and we'll do a Navionics mobile version where we're looking at the contours of the lake and really point out why these are high percentage areas. So we'll kind of touch on both, a little bit on Google Earth and then a whole lot on the Navionics boating app. And then last but not least, we have the Texas Park and Wildlife fish attractors. These things are money. Now, they're money for crappie fishing, obviously, but they're also money for bass fishing as well. So just because you think that they put them there for the crappie, remember the bass eat the crappie, and therefore, if the crappie are there, the bass are somewhere nearby, typically right there with them. So definitely take a look at these fish attractors. These can be, if you're on a little bitty tournament or something like that, these can save the day, put a little drop shot down there or something like that, pick up a couple of extra keepers. All right, so let's go ahead and select all of this stuff. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up here to the top and I'm gonna change my view. I'm gonna take this sidebar off. And the next thing that I'm gonna do, if you notice up here, I have this thing clicked right here. It's the history button. And what I'm gonna do with that history button is I'm gonna go up here and I'm gonna try to find the lake when it was down to its lowest. And I noticed this little area back in here is pretty shallow. So it will probably give me a pretty good idea of when I get to the lowest spot. Now I've already cheated, obviously, because I'm doing this recording. So I'm gonna drop this back to 2012. And when I do that, you're gonna notice there's a whole lot of stuff exposed. I wouldn't really say a lot because there's not a lot of stuff on the bank line on this, but you can see this pond dam is exposed. This pond dam is exposed over here as well. You can see the pipe that comes through here. You can see a little bit of rock in there as well. So that's where we're gonna start at. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna start down here at the dam. Actually, let's just start right there. And we'll just work our way all the way across. And then we're gonna work our way up, down and around, and back down to this little spot right here. So let's just start in this corner. Let's just talk about some of the stuff that's over here. Now, again, I'm just gonna leave everything selected because of the way that, that we're doing it today. So here, these are just high percentage areas in this spot that you need to take a look at. Obviously, you see this pond that's up here. We talked about that. Fishing around that pond dam on the outside as well as the inside. Those can be high percentage spots. This point right here, normally I would call it a point. David just called it offshore. Same exact thing, though. This is going to be your decent little offshore area. If they're going to collect up, they're more than likely going to collect up right in here. And if we zoom in a little bit, I thought that might have been a little bit of rock right there, but that's not. But anyways, good offshore spot. And then we're going to take a look at that too when we look at the Navionics mobile side. You've also got this pipe going through there. You don't want to take a look at that. You've got some rock that's down here. Now I like this little area right in here because it's a nice little pinch point for them to really ambush bait, like set up on this corner and just wait for them to just go right past them. Especially if you get a lot of wind coming this way, you get some current coming through here or something like that. This could be a nice little place just to set up out here and just pick them off right through there. So definitely take a look at that stuff. You've got some debris that's down here too. It's kind of hard to see, but it looks like maybe some fish attractors or something that someone put out there. There's a couple here. There may be one right there, but we just couldn't get a good image of it. There's definitely 3 more right in there. Those are some shallow things. I'm not sure what they are, but when that water comes up, the bass are definitely going to be attracted to that. All right, and then as we move up here through this little channel, the next thing we have here is this point. And we always talk about that all the time, especially if you get some current that runs down this way or either way, whichever way the wind is blowing, those fish could set up here on this side. They could set up here on this side. It just depends on which way the wind is blowing, but those are always good spots to look at too. Anytime you can find those pinch points, again, you're going to see it out here. This is a good offshore spot too. Same reason, with wind, current, things like that, just blowing that shad through that channel. They're going to be good ambush points on either one of these sides. And this side actually has a little bit of rock. Now, I don't know if that rock actually goes all the way out into the water, but if it does, that makes it even a higher percentage area than most of the other stuff that we were taking a look at. Now, you can see here we've got a lot of offshore stuff. We're going to talk about those when we bust out the contours, so we'll skip over those for now. Let's keep moving. We've got a little bit of rock out here off of this point. So remember, when the water's up, this is going to be a good little shallow flat with some rock on it that might be worthy of fishing for sure. So you're definitely going to want to take a look at that. Another offshore spot we'll talk about later. Here's some pretty good rock up here. Some nice shallow rock, shallow crank and stuff like that. Be a good little spot. And then off this point, of course, just the point alone, of course, is going to be an offshore spot. Just coming out here and fishing where it gets a little bit deeper, especially when the fish start moving down, because they're just going to move up and down and up and down. So always a good area to look on one of these main lake points. When you move in here though, you can see this rock, and you can see it right here. And I think there's some more right in here too. You know, can't absolutely identify it, but it definitely looks like there's some rock in there. So that's gonna be good, like Carolina rig fishing, especially if the water gets a little bit deeper in that area. If not, you know, then do your shallow cranking and stuff like that, your little swim baits, your wobble heads, shaky heads, all that stuff's gonna be good right in that area. All right, so we're gonna keep moving up. Again, another offshore spot we'll have to come back to. Here is a fence line, and these fence lines can be absolutely magical sometimes. And typically, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but the biggest one sets on the farthest outside post. So you don't ever wanna come in and start fishing like inside post this way, because by the time you get out here, they're onto you. You're probably not gonna get that bite. So what you wanna do is you wanna come in from this side, stay away from that fence, and come in pretty much, you know, you're not parallel to it, but I guess you're somewhat parallel to it, but you're basically right in line with it, right? So your boat's gonna be like right here, and you're gonna be casting this way and this way. Don't get too close to it to spook them, but this way and this way. Then you pick one off, and then you scoot in a little bit closer, and this way, and you work your way as far as you can down that fence line until you have to pick a side to go to. So that's definitely a good way to approach the fence line. So take a look at that if you're out there fishing that. Again, another offshore spot there. We'll have to come back to the mapping on that one. I'm gonna back up a little bit and show you where I'm at. So we just came down here, and we're moving our way up the bank line here on the east side. There's a hump out here we can take a look at. We'll look at that on the contours. Here's a little bit more rock in here, a little sneaky little rock pile you could check out. Just this little bank line, really, from right here, you can see a transition going on right in here, and you can follow it all the way down here to this rock pile. You've got some scattered rock. So definitely, you know, that's gonna be a good cranking areas and things like that, where you can really be bouncing and deflecting off stuff. There's probably gonna be some crawfish in here and things like that the bass can eat off of. So that's gonna make it a higher percentage area, especially right in there. You've got some more debris that's in here. It's kind of hard to see, but maybe a lay down, or I don't know, could even be like an old boat. I have no idea what that is. But some kind of debris. And anytime you find the debris that's out there, especially when that water goes up. So if I move that water up to say 2015, you can see here now it's totally submerged. That's kind of a bad image. 2016, it's totally submerged. And then you've got that rock that's out here too. So those could be some good little areas to take a look at. You can't tell they're there when the water's up. When you pull the water down, you can definitely see that's there. And that's going to be the case for everything that we saw, you know, below us. So let's go on up here and let's take a look at this. This looks like a pretty hot area. I'm guessing, I mean, just a guess, but I think this is going to be a community hole. A couple things here to take a look at. One, there could be a fence row right here. It can't tell if that's a pipe or a fence. If it's a fence, you definitely want to fish it. If it's a pipe, you want to fish it as well. And then again, it could be nothing. So we didn't really mark it, but something to look at. But here is what I'm talking about as being the community area. So you've got pond dams over here. You know, these could get pretty juicy possibly, but this rock right here, there's not very much of that rock on this lake. Even on that bank line that we just looked at, it was pretty sparse. So this is definitely going to be a high percentage area that you're going to want to go out and look at. So I'm going to pull back and just show you where that's at. So I'm right there. Look where my cursor's at. You can kind of see where that is. Now, if you're like, how in the world am I going to remember all this stuff? Don't worry. You can go out to our website, simplisticfishing.com. We've got SD cards out there. We've also got the digital files. The SD cards, basically you just plug them into your graph and do an import. And once you do the import, you have all these waypoints that we discussed. The digital files, you pretty much just copy the files. Then you take those files, you put them on an SD card, and you plug them into your graph and you do the same thing. It also comes with the Google Earth waypoints that we're looking at right here, so you can actually see you know, the waypoints through a different history and time. So go check it out, simplisticfishing.com. Let's keep going. Have to put my little plug out there. Let's keep moving up here. We've got some timber. Now, anytime you have timber, you have bass. And you've also got, not only do you have timber, but you also have creek channels. Now, you heard them talk about the description about using spinnerbaits. Spinnerbaits are great around trees as well, but you know what else is great around trees? And Randy Blockett probably wouldn't like this, but live scoping. Live scoping is awesome around trees. Jerk baits, swim baits, A-rigs, spinnerbaits, all that good stuff. Really good stuff to use live scope on, if you ask me. And I don't use it very often, but when I do, it's in those types of situations when I would definitely use it. So go check out this little pocket right in here, especially in the springtime or in the fall. Those are going to be two high percentage times to go up there and check that out. We've also got some more rock that's up here. And then as we move a little bit further up, just some scattered rock along the bank line. Nothing too crazy, but notice how it gets a little bit heavier just right in this one spot. So they could just collect up literally just on that little 20 yards of bank line there that you see. It's very possible. Moving up here, you see where we've got it marked as offshore. We'll take a look at that from a contour perspective, but you can tell there's a little point that comes out here, and there's a lot of timber and stuff by that point too. That one might not be as high a percentage, but definitely a spot that could be a little sneaky spot that not everybody would fish. And then as we get up in here, we start seeing the Texas Park and Wildlife fish attractors. This is pretty cool. You got some timber over here that you could check out too. The lunkers will lurk in that stuff. You've also got another point that comes out here that you could look at. Got it marked as offshore. Moving on up, you see the boat ramp here. Got an offshore spot out there we'll take a look at. When we get to the contour side, there are some tires down here. Very much exposed when the water's down. But this little area around the boat ramp, I don't know if you're allowed to fish around it. Usually you can. But if there's nobody there, it's a quiet day, I would hit this area pretty hard. You got some good rock, you got some debris, got the nice ramp there. You'd be surprised at how many fish just hang around the boat ramp. You only have, what, 4 trucks there, so you probably have the ability to fish around that area with nobody getting too upset with you. Obviously, somebody comes in, you want to move out, but take a look at it. And if there's anybody fishing from the pier, just let them be. We got plenty of other stuff we can go fish. So let's keep moving up here. We've got lots of fish attractors. Man, like crazy. A-rig season, that's going to be money to go take a look at, especially if you got some wind blowing one direction or the other. If you get a little northeast wind, normally you'd run from that, but that's going to be a kind of a money wind to set up for A-rigging on this bridge. Got a lot of crappie that are probably caught on this bridge as well. So just a high percentage area. Bridges in general are definitely high percentage areas. You've got rock in here. You've also got a little offshore stuff going on right in here, which would pretty much just be that point. But we'll take a look at it again with those contours and look at it. Notice here, you got to be super careful. You're probably going to want to be an experienced person up here, or pretty much idle around. You've got a lot of brush going on right in here that can do some damage, so just be careful. Coming up here, another offshore spot we'll have to go back to and look at the contours. This is interesting from an offshore spot, but you can tell why it's marked as offshore. One, you've got some stumps and things like that in this area, but two, there's a ditch here, and you can just vaguely see it with Google Earth, but it's definitely there, and those fish love to hang out in those little ditches. So definitely take a look at that. It looks like there might even be some kind of a mini creek or something that might pump out, and that's why you see that ditch there. Got some offshore stuff up here. If you can get up here past all these trees, you got a good point up here that you could fish. This might be like kayak territory. I don't know how the heck you get up here. Got another creek channel that's up here you could take a look at. You got a pond dam that's up there too. This is probably getting pretty hairy by the time you get up here into Jack's Branch, but some offshore stuff, a couple points to take a look at. We'll look at that one too, but probably my guess is there's probably a creek channel that comes really close to that. And then here you got the major creek channel that comes through here, and that offshore spot is just a point where that creek channel comes up really close to it. So I'm going to pull back here. We're going to keep going just a little bit longer. I think we're still good on time. We're at 15 minutes, so should be good. We'll see if we can get this thing knocked out. Another channel up here, or a ditch, however you want to look at it. You could take a look at good tree lines, right? Good tree lines up here that you could take a look at. A pond dam. Another offshore spot that's really going to be that point coming out, and of course there's a boat on it, but that point coming out where that creek channel comes down through here. So right in here, around that point, around where that offshore spot is, could be a nice little spot to take a look at. Gonna be a little hairy getting back in there, but if you can get back in there like that boat did, it should be worth your time. We're gonna move on back here. Got some more offshore stuff we'll take a look at. Another pond dam, more offshore stuff. Out here, we've got the same things we did over here. We've got offshore basically because of that rock, and then you've got that rock in there around the bridges. I mean, fish the pillars of the bridges, especially fish here where those Texas Park and Wildlife fish attractors are. That's gonna help you out a ton. If you look down here, another offshore spot, good little point here too. He labeled it offshore. I probably would have labeled it point, but a nice little point to take a look at here, and a creek channel that kind of winds back through here that you could take a look at. That might be worthy of checking out. And then if you look here, wherever that creek channel goes, it might even come down here. It's hard to tell, but some fish attractors out here, and then a whole line of them coming through here. So Texas Park and Wildlife's really done a lot to enhance this lake. So take advantage of those spots that they put out there. Some offshore stuff, as well as a hump that's out there. Another little point right here. He called it offshore, but another little point, or what you call like a creek channel swing, where it comes up and it hits it pretty hard. Those are always good little areas. Plus just having that little creek channel with that timber, pretty neat too. Here you can see this point comes way out, and then there's a hump right on the end of it. A couple more offshore things here. Look at all these fish attractors. That's like a day's worth of fishing just right there in that one spot, if that's the good spot. And if not, you could just run these attractors, right? You've got plenty of them right through here. I think the challenge running them is making sure you don't hit any trees while you're doing it. So I'm gonna keep moving up. A couple more things to look at. We're gonna have to look at these from the contour side, but we got some pretty good offshore stuff going on out here. Pretty good points and things, and then we'll look at the contours on those to point those out to you. It's gonna be the same thing here off these points. Move it over here. We've got more offshore stuff to look at. I'm going to skip over real quick and just pull over here to the west and just show you this. You've got a nice hump that's out here. Real good offshore spots right out here in this area. And you've also got these fish attractors. And we'll pull this up and we're going to look at it. There's probably some type of a bend or something like that that triggered him to put that offshore spot there. We've got another one right here as well. And then here it's starting to get hairy again. You can see all the trees and everything. But getting up in here, you could fish that little point if you can get up into there. Just gets really hairy on this lake. You've also got more creek channels up here you could take a look at. This point looks pretty good. It's got some really good rock on it. I really like that. Again, maybe you can get a lane for this lake. I don't sell them, but I would definitely like to have them. Another hump is out here, or a point. Probably looks more like a hump when you put it up at a pretty good point that comes out here, and then obviously fishing out here right where that timber begins. That could be a nice little offshore spot too. Gonna move up here, another little offshore, a little point that comes out right by that creek channel. There is a boat up here, so they get up here somehow. I don't know how you guys do it. Then we're gonna move up here. We got some pretty good rock that's all around these points, and you can see it pretty good. But man, it's thick in timber, but lots of rock. Lots of rock. This could be really juicy. It would definitely be worth taking your time to get up there, because that's been one of the healthiest bank lines that we've seen pretty much on the whole entire lake. I mean, that's the most area of rock other than that spot that was over there that had the ponds and things. So this would be worthy of getting up and checking out. Some more points that are up here as well. I got to speed up a little bit because the time's taking forever. Some more points and offshore. Again, anything that says offshore, we're just going to cover on the contour side, so we'll skip those. Another little channel that comes up here. Notice it's got some pretty good turns right in here. Now this just may get too shallow to even fish, but might be worth going up in the springtime. I don't know. I almost have to go to this lake to check it out to see if that would even be worth getting up there. It would take forever to get there. Up here, some more rock that was right in here too. I skipped that. You can see it's right there on that edge. And that might be like little good kayaking areas, but notice we've got offshore here. I would call these basically just rock or points, but good riprap and things. Those are always good areas to fish. So if you can get up here with a kayak, maybe come out here, you could fish this riprap, you could fish the bridge pillars, you could fish this hump, you could come over here and fish this offshore stuff. And then you could even get up here and fish this rock, or maybe get up here and fish around these trees and stuff where this creek channel comes in if the water's deep enough. Then we're going to keep moving on down. We got some more rock. Another channel that's down here. Pretty good little channel too. Notice that it has some pretty good turns. It's probably even mark it. You can pretty much see it comes back down here. So it makes a hard turn there where you think it busts out. It turns hard and actually comes back down here or something like that. So this area in here, again, another high percentage area. Lots of offshore spots, basically just points that you'll want to check out. Another spot there, you've got the creek channel back here. You do have some rock that's back in here as well. So if I zoom in here, you'll finally see a little bit more rock. So pretty much if you can find the rock on this lake, you're probably going to be putting yourself in some really, really high areas because there's not a lot of it. Again, right in here, even though we show that there's rock here, there's just not a ton of it. There's a little bit of it, but there's not a ton of it. And we're going to keep going down, just a little bit of rock all the way down that bank line. And we're just pointing out the certain areas where that rock is, but those are going to be high percentage areas to get into and check out, because there's not very much of that. Now you got a lot of rock right here around this island. So pull back, show you where I'm at. We're almost done. But mainly this is just all rock, but this bank line here, yes, especially if the wind's blowing this way, for sure. And same thing on this side, if the wind's blowing this way, for sure this side, as well as, you know, you got this nice little rock point that comes out there as well. All right, so let's keep moving on. We got the offshore stuff there. We talked about that hump and those fish attractors that were out there. We got the offshore stuff here as well, which we'll come back to. Right here, I like this. You've got 4 fish attractors. You can just sit there and probably go 1, 2, 3, 4, and just keep rotating, especially if you can find fish on a couple of them. So really good area to take a look at. Got some more offshore stuff back in here. Got a ramp back in there. Here we go. Here's some rocky stuff in here. So we're coming up. There's the ramp, right? We're just going to come out from the ramp. And right from here, you've got some good cranking areas, some good shaky head areas. A little bit of random rock. This point's pretty heavy on the rocks. Clearly, there's something going on here. We got 3 different bass boats right here in this area. So this kind of tells you that, hey, you're in a higher percentage area. There were only, what, 4 boats on the lake, I think we saw, 4 trailers, and 3 of the 4 boats are right here in this area. That should tell you something. So why are they here? Well, look at all the rock. There's a lot of rock here, a lot of rock around these points. There's a little bit of timber in there too, but just some really good points to fish around, and they're all kind of set up, you know, fishing those types of points. All right, so let's keep moving down. Offshore here, we got some humps out here we'll take a look at, more offshore, and that actually takes us back to where we began, right down here. I'll call this the dam because I don't really know where the dam is. I guess that is the dam, but we'll call that the dam. So we're gonna finish right there. And again, if you want to get these waypoints, just go out to our website, simplisticfishing.com. We've got them out there for purchase. Take a look at them, get the digital file, get the SD card, and you'll be on your way. Until next time, guys, I hope you catch your PB. Take it easy.